The Chicago Bears have a couple of extensions that they need to get done, and one may be more expensive than we thought. Let's talk about it, starting now. Now, if you are new to the channel, please hit that like button. Please subscribe to the page. We do talk Chicago sports daily on this channel. It's the only channel talking Chicago sports, how Chicago talks, and make sure that you get in tune with us, man. A couple of extensions now that free agency and some of the trades and stuff like that is slowing down that need to be done for the Chicago Bears are ones that we need to talk about because some signings have happened in this free agency that may make it a little bit more expensive to go out there and retain a couple of these players. Number one, first name on the list to me, I mean, you got to talk about Kyler Gordon and what he's meant to this Chicago Bears team. Kyler Gordon over his rookie contract has been somebody who has epitomized everything about Bears football. I mean, hard hitting, doing anything that the team needs him to do, always looking to get to the quarterback, really, really good in coverage as always, and a stout player in the run game for the Chicago Bears. He's somebody who in the slot you would think that the Chicago Bears would want back. And one thing that I love about it is who wants to be here as well. Courtney Cronin tweeted this out the other day talking about Kyler Gordon and his thoughts on actually wanting to return to the Bears. She said Kyler Gordon, who is entering his fourth season on contract extension with the Bears. I love Chicago. I love everything about it. The people, the history, the team, community. This is where God is telling me to be. This is where I will be. It's where I want to be. As far as an extension, we'll see what happens. I've got no control over that, but God will. And listen, all I'm asking is God, get to work. You know what I mean? I know you're busy, but apparently you got to get this contract done for Kyler Gordon. And it's one that I think the Chicago Bears should want to get done for Kyler Gordon, right? And you look at some of the numbers now around the league and try and see, okay, well, where is Kyler's market kind of going to be at? And I look at a guy like Michael Carter II, who the Jets just re-signed this offseason to a 3-year contract, $30 million per. Some interesting numbers in there, but still making about $10 million per year. Love that. I think that's a really good range and a really good starting point. Now, do you want to reset it a little bit? Could you pay Kyler Gordon a little bit more being a homegrown product and allowing him to go out there and kind of reset that market? I wouldn't be mad at that. If you end somewhere in that $12 million range, I would love to see something like that for him. But I think at the end of the day, the goal is to keep good pieces on this team. And while Kyler Gordon is a really good piece, and while you want to keep Kyler Gordon on this team because he is a really good piece, I think that you still do have to get the contract worked out in a way that does favor you, especially knowing in that 2027 season, if Caleb Williams does hit, you're going to have to pay Caleb Williams. I like the fact that we're talking about bringing Kyler Gordon back. It seems like everything on that trend is going in a positive direction, but the real question is, when is a deal like that going to get done? I'm hoping this offseason, especially with how Ryan Poles has structured some of the contracts, that's one that we can get done and not worry about in the long run. But of course, we'll see if it's something where Ryan Poles wants to let this go to free agency. Remember, Ryan Poles has done that before, going into the season with a DB who's much better than Kyler Gordon in Jalen Johnson, and said, we're going to let the market dictate how much you're worth. Now, at the end, with Jalen Johnson, you ended up paying way more than where you were going to be in the initial part of that contract. And I said, listen, to me, that was one where you could have signed him for much less, but you needed to see if he had that next level in him. And remember, he was able to finally start to get some of the interceptions when you put some pressure in front of him, and he turned into this elite level DB. I think that's going to be a nothing contract now heading into next season, where you're talking about him actually being able to follow wide receivers around. But I look at the Kyler Gordon contract very similar in that sense on, listen, I would love to get this deal done now, especially with how some of the money has worked out, but with some of the names that you have to pay, you might have to let Kyler Gordon go out there and say, hey, listen, find a price. We want you here. We want you to be a part of this team. If they're willing to pay you something more, we'll match it. But if we come to a lower number, this is kind of where we're going to sit. I would assume he ends in that $10 to $12 million range no matter what. But it is going to be interesting to see how the Bears handle the Kyler Gordon situation, especially knowing that you got to pay a guy in Joe Thuney who, listen, I didn't hit the wrong thing. And there it is. Especially a guy in Joe Thuney, because he's an extension that I need to see get done first. And I think that his is going to be much more than I believe the Chicago Bears were expecting to pay. Now, it's going to be for shorter terms because of the age on Joe Thuney, already a little bit of an older player than some of the pieces that were out there on the market. But the problem is he's the most accomplished by far of any of the pieces that signed. So you can't go into negotiations just lowballing Joe Thuney. And I think he's one that you want to really get locked in here. We talked with Joe Thuney about the contract up at Hallis the day that he spoke to the media. And what was interesting about his comments were, you know, he just kind of was like, I would love to be here. I'm here now. I'm focused on being here. I'm focused on this season. Right now, he's making $15 million a year. You would assume that that's going to go up. But the problem is, yet again, dropping FGB in the chat, the Packers coming in with the Aaron Banks contract, I should say. Aaron Brooks. I keep going to the old Houston Rocket, Aaron Brooks. The Aaron Banks contract, with him at being 28 years old, I think kind of shoots the Chicago Bears in the foot, because this is a deal where when you look at Joe Thuney getting the bag, right, you got to pay him more in my mind. Now, it doesn't have to be as long, but you got to pay him more at least than what the guys on the market are getting. Aaron Banks got the absolute bag, $77 million, and he's nowhere near the player that Joe Thuney, even in his older age, is anywhere close to. Now, he's getting about 19 annually on that deal. I would be intrigued to see if the Bears will end up having to pay somewhere between 20 to 25 to keep Thuney in here. You got to pay, like I said, you got to pay him more. You have no choice. That is what the market is right now for the guard position. And Joe Thuney's not going to be making less than Aaron Banks is. Now, if you can work something out where you backload the contract or you work out a 3-year deal to make it a little bit easier on the money per year, whatever it is, I think that that's where Ryan Poles' expertise is. But right now, when I look at a Joe Thuney contract, right, if you're talking about probably a 2-year deal, which I think you're probably starting at the table with, coming to the table with, including this season, starting next year, you might be talking about in the range of 2 years, $50 million for Joe Thuney to be extended here, because you have to pay this guy what he's worth, and the guard price right now seems to be through the roof. And like I said, he's the most accomplished of anybody on this list. It's going to be very interesting to see how Ryan Poles works this one out. Possibly could see a third year added in there to try and make some of the money a little bit easier on the Bears throughout. And listen, if Joe Thuney keeps playing the way he does, that's going to be money well spent. He seems like one of those players who we're going to be looking at him at like 37 years old, like, hey, you want another 1-year deal? It seems like it's just not slowing down for him. He's been an absolute road grader his entire time in the NFL. He's been a champion. He's been with the best. This is the kind of guy that you want with Caleb Williams. And so you pay him what he's worth, not only just on the field, but also for the knowledge that he's going to bring for your young quarterback. I'm very excited to see what's going to end up getting done with the Thuney extension, because I think, like I said, that is the big one that you got to get out of the way first before you can even look at anybody else on this team. And I know many people are going to look at me and say, Pat, well, you didn't bring up Jaquan Brisker in that whole situation. Somebody's going to be the odd man out. There's not a bunch of money to go around. As much as I love Brisk, and I think that Brisk is a integral part of this team, the concussions are a concern for me. If I'm focused on getting contracts done right now, I'm focused on these two names. I'm looking at Kyler Gordon, I'm looking at Joe Thuney, and I'm saying these are the two names that we need to get done if I'm letting anybody get to free agency and maybe try and go back, find his market, come back, and we pay him for, pay him to come back. It would be a Jaquan Brisker right now, who I adore. I think is a key piece and a major problem that the Bears defense last season fell apart after he was gone. I think he's a key piece to this defense, but the concussions are a concern that are real. There's something that you have to look at and say, listen, we have to make sure that we can get this issue solved here. And last season, I give him all the leeway in the world. He got the boom lowered on him by a tight end who was headhunting and Jaquan was heads up tackling. Got to get the head out of the way there maybe, but I thought that he did everything right for the most part and still end up dealing with a concussion. But the problem is once you start to get them consistently like that, they usually don't go away, and he is in that Tua Tagovailoa concussion range, not as serious, but in that range of like, all right, this is starting to become a thing where this is the reoccurring theme with you. And hopefully he's able to overcome it. Hopefully it's something that the Bears can figure out and that he won't have to be lowering the boom, but it is a really big part of how he plays. And so if I'm getting contracts done, I'm looking at Thuney, I'm looking at Gordon well before I'm looking at Jaquan Brisker. And that's just, unfortunately, like I said, when you invest in the trenches, your favorite bear is going to have to go eventually. I think Jaquan Brisker may be one of those pieces. Let me know you guys' thoughts in the comments below. I'll be down to talk with you as well. As always, it's your boy Pat the Designer back at it again. Make sure to tune in with us at 6. We will be live for the the Daily Show. We're going to be talking about NFL free agency. Who are the winners? Who are the losers? Who are some of the teams you got to look at and go, what's going on there? And is Aaron Rodgers coming back to the NFC North? Tap in with us at 6. We'll see you guys then. Y'all stay safe out there, Chicago. Bear down. One love. Peace.